Welcome to the second quarter. I'm your co-host, Dalton Carty.
I'm your other co-host, Jacob Eichenlob, and today we're going to be doing like a Week 14 recap, looking at a Week 15 preview. We're going to be talking about coaches on the hot seat and if we think they should go or stay, and then we're going to look at the Heisman candidates and look at the final votes.
Also, college football playoff predictions. So let's hop into our weekly recap. First, Steelers versus Vikings. It was a 38-26 win for the Vikings.
Yeah, it was.
Dalvin Cook and Eric Hendricks, first game back. No Adam Thielen for this game. Dalvin Cook, 153 yards and 2 tutties. First half alone.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Ended up
He
with...
didn't do much in the second half. He finished with 205. He got like another 52 yards, but their offense just was not all there in that second
Justin
half.
Jefferson, first half stats ended up being his full game stats, 6 receptions, 67 yards, and a touchdown. Big first half for the Vikings, huge first half. Ended up having 4 sacks. TJ Watt went out with a groin injury early in this game as well. That could have influenced that a little bit.
The Vikings definitely tried to fucking give this game to the
Oh,
Steelers. They
definitely.
tried so hard. But then Chase Claypool is an idiot.
Cost him 14 seconds.
And then blamed his own line.
Yeah, antics cost him 14 seconds.
That's 2 plays.
Exactly.
That's 2 plays
went
of football.
From, I believe it was 38 to 24 seconds.
They cost his team 2 plays.
Exactly.
And then blame the O-line for trying to get the ball.
That game should have ended. It should have went to overtime. If Freiermuth hangs onto that ball, I mean, you're taking 3 hits.
Yeah, you're getting hit from like every single direction. One of them being Harrison Smith. It's hard to hold on to that, man.
Hard to hold on. So yeah, it's a huge win for the Vikings. Keeps them in playoff contention. Steelers kind of dropped back a little bit, but that's a tough division to play in. They got the Titans next week, so we'll see how that goes in Pittsburgh. So moving on to the Cowboys versus the football team. Cowboys hang on to win 27-20 against the football team on the road. Micah Parsons, clear defensive rookie of the year. He's had a sack in each of his last 6 games. Possibly defensive player of the year.
I would agree with that. I don't think he's going to win it, but I definitely feel like
put
he
him
should
in the conversation. Absolutely.
I feel like if TJ Watt isn't really out for too long, he still is probably the front runner in my opinion, but you could also go Myles Garrett. Then I think Micah Parsons is 3.
Dak Prescott, 2 interceptions, 4 turnovers for the Washington football team. I believe 3 interceptions by Heineke, and then a lost or 3 fumbles and then an interception, if I'm not mistaken. Washington football team playing without Terry McLaurin, so that definitely had an impact. Big division win for the Cowboys, moves them up to 9-4. Kind of knocks Washington out of a wild card spot.
Kind of knocks them out of the division race too. The only way anyone's going to get in that into the playoffs out of that division, other than the Cowboys, is if they somehow just have a late season run and get a wild card spot. But that's going to be hard to do in the NFC.
Moving on to next week, next game. We'll let that out. Yeah. Raiders versus Chiefs. Final score 9-48. Honestly, probably shouldn't have been that close. Should have been 3-48 if it wasn't for a late game touchdown. Patrick Mahomes, 83% completion percentage at 146 QBR on 2 touchdowns. In his last 6 games, he's had a quarterback rating of over 100 in each of his last 6 games. So definitely improving the offenses.
I really think the Raiders cost themselves the game whenever they decide to take a page out of Juju Smith-Schuster's playbook and go onto the other team's logo before the game.
Might have had an impact. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 2 touchdowns, 4 forced fumbles by the Chiefs defense. No run game for the Raiders. They had 44 rush yards total the entire game. Hunter Renfrow's best receiver on that team, probably best player, arguably, without Darren Waller and Khalil Mack. 117 yards and a touchdown. And the Chiefs had no turnovers. That was a big thing for them.
I've seen a lot of people saying the Chiefs are back and they're going to win the AFC. And I feel like they got more to prove. Like, their defense has been playing great, but, I mean, they haven't really played very many great teams recently. I think, in my opinion, the last great team they played was the Titans, and that was with Derrick Henry. And I believe the Chiefs only scored 3 points in that game. And then when they played the Ravens, Lamar single-handedly beat the Chiefs. I understand it's early season, the defense needed tuned up, but still, they haven't they beat up a mediocre Raiders team. I don't think they're the best team in the AFC yet.
Definitely a big win for the Chiefs, though. It moves them into a 3-way tie for first place in the AFC at 9-4.
And they have the Chargers next week. But
have Chargers.
The Chargers won the first matchup, so the Chiefs really need this one.
2 back-to-back division games is going to be tough. Moving on, Seahawks Texans, shit show.
Yeah.
Rashad Penny, 137 yards, and I think this was his first game that he had over 102 yards, and he was a first-round pick. He also had 2 touchdowns. Tyler Lockett, 142 yards and a touchdown. Russell Wilson, 2 touchdowns and 260 yards. really all we can talk about is stats this game. There wasn't really a whole lot that happened. There wasn't any turnovers. Davis Mills threw for 331 yards and a touchdown with 100 QBR. And no sacks for the Texans. I mean, there wasn't really a whole lot that happened.
I want to talk about Davis Mills for a second. So if he just goes off the rest of the year, regardless if the Texans win or lose, do you think they still go with the quarterback in the draft?
I think that they need to build that defense first before you worry about your quarterback issues.
I feel like they're looking at it like a top 2 pick right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, in my opinion, the first 2 to go, depending on the team, is going to be Hutchinson and Thibodeau, in either order.
I mean, you could really go
Hamilton too.
Any of the 4 out of the 5 picks need to be Thibodeau, Hutchinson, Hamilton, and Stingley.
Yes.
So really not a whole lot. Seahawks win 33-13. Texans fall to 2-11, and the Seahawks keep themselves in the playoff hunt, moving up to 5-8. And then moving on
again, the only team eliminated in the NFC is the Lions.
It's a good point. Moving on next week, Jaguars versus Titans. 20-0 win for the Titans at home is a big win for them. After coming off of 2 losses and then going into their bye week that way, coming out and getting a win. I understand it's against the Jaguars, but I mean, it's still a confidence booster, division win. Phenomenal defensive performance by the Titans, 4 interceptions, a great pass rush. Trevor Lawrence had practically no time to throw the ball.
And when he had more than 2.5 seconds to throw, that's when 3 of his picks came.
3 of his interceptions.
3 of his 4 interceptions came when he had time.
Penalties definitely hurt the Jags. They had 9 of them. And they also only had 9 first downs. So they had as many penalties as they had first downs. Titans ended up having 22. Julio Jones, this was his return after being out for a couple weeks and basically no production, 4 receptions for 33 yards. So very lackluster performance for him. Really, the only highlight of that day for the Jaguars was having 4 sacks on Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is Taylor Lewan still out?
No, he's back for that game.
That is impressive, though.
So, moving on to Saints versus Jets. Saints win 30-9, which actually was pretty close up until the third quarter.
I 100% picked the Jets to win.
I also had the Jets to win this game. Saints dominated possession that game. 3 rushing touchdowns, 1 by Kamara, 2 by Taysom Hill. Both of them coming late in the game. Zach Wilson, 202 yards, only 45% completion percentage, which is absolutely horrendous, especially considering you're a top 2 pick.
Yes.
Then only 78 rushing yards for the Jets, 33 of them alone by Zach Wilson. So Jets definitely have some work to do. Michael Carter was injured for this game, and so was Corey Davis. Still not acceptable. I mean,
No.
78 yards and 33 as your quarterback. I mean,
Yeah.
that's...
Well, I mean, if you look at the Bills game, which we're going to get into later, Josh Allen had over 100
Oh,
rushing
yeah,
yards
over
for them.
100. Yep, absolutely. Moving on next to the Falcons versus the Panthers. Falcons get the win 29-21. Matty Ice, 105 QBR, 190 yards, 1 touchdown. 2 interceptions by the Falcons defense, which was really good. 1 from Cam, 1 from PJ Walker. Cameron Newton would later be benched for PJ Walker. Cam also had the most rushing attempts on the team and had a touchdown for it. Chuba Hubbard only 33 yards this game. No sacks for the Panthers either against 37-year-old Matt Ryan.
I really think that the Panthers need to give Amir Abdullah more touches. He's a great receiving back. He has sort of a veteran presence, and he can kind of take off some of the workload of the young guy Chuba Hubbard. And he can also get some of the receiving looks like Christian McCaffrey did. He obviously can't copy that workload or his production, but he can take some of the pressure off the rest of the team, and they're just not giving him enough touches.
Big division win for the Falcons, kind of keeps them in playoff contention, kind of pushes the Panthers out as Falcons move up to 6-7, Panthers fall to 5-8. Moving on next to the Ravens-Brown. Lamar Jackson injured early in this game, kind of took him out and really kind of took the Ravens out of this game. I felt like they had a good shot if Lamar stayed in. Penalties absolutely killed him, though. He ended up having 10 of them. It was a great comeback here at the end. Poor 2-point conversion call by John Harbaugh, though. Could have kicked the PAT to make it an 8-point game, but went for 2 and didn't get it, and it made it a 9-point game. And essentially, just took him right out.
Because if you just took the PAT, it's still
Absolutely.
So if they went for 2 that time, and then
you're still down to score if you get it.
Yeah.
So last week he had a great 2-point conversion. I like the 2-point conversion call where he threw it with Lamar. If Lamar makes a better throw,
it did not work. It was a great
call. I
support
support that call.
But
I
now
do not support this one.
I feel like he's getting too aggressive
a little bit too aggressive. I understand it's a division game. It's high stakes, but that was just poor play calling. You kick the PAT, it's a 1-score game.
And it's not like you're really risking missing it. You have Justin Tucker.
Yeah. Very, very poor play calling there by John Harbaugh. 4 sacks for the Browns defense, actually. It was a big win. Jadeveon Clowney ended up getting a sack to really kind of seal it at the end. Moving on to Lions versus Broncos. Broncos getting the win after Demaryius Thomas's tragic passing.
Yeah.
Justin Simmons with an interception to commemorate him. And they also started the game with only 10 men on the field.
I believe they left the X receiver position open because that's the position he played.
Cortland Sutton was out for that play.
Cortland Sutton was out, and I think it was very respectable from Dan Campbell to decline that penalty.
Yep, absolutely. Lions playing without Swift again for today. Jared Goff only a 78 QBR. Amon-Ra St. Brown is definitely becoming a bright spot for the Lions.
Oh,
really,
he definitely is.
really
He had 8
emerging
receptions for 73 yards.
Yep. Teddy two tutties though, 125 QBR, 3 rushing touchdowns for the Broncos backs as Gordon had 1 and Javonte Williams has 2 of them. Ended up splitting touches that way, and Williams also had a receiving touchdown, so big game for him. Big win for the Broncos. Kind of keeps them in playoff contention. Lions obviously out of it. Probably going to secure the number 1 pick here within the next few weeks.
Yeah, probably.
Giants Chargers. Chargers just an all-around better game. Herbie 275 yards. He has the most 300-yard passing games this year. Even though this was not one of them, he's got 7 of them this year. So he's really taken off. 3 touchdowns, 143 quarterback rating.
The Chargers really can't afford to lose because they're in a close race with the Chiefs to win that division, especially if they win next week. I mean, they have the same record at that point, but the Chargers do have the tiebreaker over Kansas City, and it could be a close division race coming down to the end.
Yep, Chargers 8-5 and Chiefs 9-4. So a win for the Chargers would definitely put them in a good spot for the division. Really, just a poor game though for the Giants. Not really a whole lot to say about them. Saquon 16 carries for 64 yards. Mike Lennon was the starting quarterback for this game, but Chargers were just a better team. I mean, that's the simplest way to put it. Big game for this one: Bills versus Buccaneers. 23-33 win in overtime. Tom Brady did not. His average completion was 4.1 yards. Made a great throw to Mike Evans, but that was the only one that he really had. Furious comeback by the Bills though in the fourth quarter. They scored 17 points in the fourth quarter alone to tie it up.
They were, I believe, it was 27 it was 24-6, I believe.
At one point in the game.
Yes,
yeah.
and then the Bills went on a 20-something. I think it was a 21-3 run.
Mm-hmm.
Might have been 24-3, 20. It was something like that. But the Bills made a great comeback, forced overtime. Looked like they were going to force the Bucs to punt in overtime. Then Brashad Perryman was wide open on that route crossing the field. Brady hit him in stride, and he took it to the house.
Very Tom Brady-esque to have a simple route just pan out into a big explosive play.
I also believe that was his 700th career passing touchdown. I believe the walk-off touchdown was number 700.
He also broke the completion record. Brady 363 yards and 2 touchdowns. And 1 rushing touchdown.
Tom Brady is fast as shit now, for whatever reason.
Madden needs to jump up that speed rating.
Yes, they do.
Chris Godwin with back-to-back 100-yard games this game, and Richard Sherman ended up getting an interception. So it was a great win for the Buccaneers. Keeps them again a 3-way tie in the NFC and the AFC, but this time the NFC is 10-3 with the Cardinals, Packers, and Buccaneers all at the top.
AFC is 9-4 with the Patriots, the Chiefs, and the Titans.
Yep. Moving on to another overtime game with the 49ers and Bengals. 26-23 in overtime. 49ers take it. Joe Burrow, 348 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mixon's been off track lately. He had 58 rushing yards this game. Still second in the NFL, though, in rushing yards with 1,060 something? 1,070 something? Somewhere around there. A little far behind Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
Chase also back on track. 77 yards, 2 touchdowns. 4 sacks for the Bengals defense, which is really good for them. Scored 14 points in the fourth quarter to send the game into overtime. Jimmy G, 300 yards and 2 tutties. Deebo Samuel's best running back on the team. What is this, his 3rd straight game with a rushing touchdown?
I believe so.
It's just absolutely ridiculous. From better running back than he is receiver, really. George Kittle, another massive game, 151 yards and a touchdown.
Don't forget the 13 catches. That was 13 fantasy points alone for me.
Combined with the 15.1 yards and 6 from the touchdown. 5 sacks for the Niners defense, which Joe Burrow leads the league in sack yards taken. So Bengals definitely have some offensive line work that they need to do. I really thought that they'd fixed it with the first few games of the season, but it turns out maybe not as great as we thought they would be, and that could be why they're starting to lose games. Brandon Ayuk, a game-winning touchdown on a reviewed play. What are your opinions on that, of calling the game on a review?
I mean, it happened in the Falcons-Patriots Super Bowl on James White's touchdown. I mean, obviously people didn't agree with that. People aren't going to agree with the game-winning touchdown if it's reviewed. But, I mean, I think the refs made a good call personally, and that was that. And Bengals fans are going to be mad about it, but it happens. Like, you lose games like that. It sucks, but get over it.
Yep. Even if they didn't give him the touchdown, they had the ball first and goal on the one. He had 4 attempts to put it in.
Yeah.
Moving on to Packers-Bears. Aaron Rodgers just owns the Bears.
I thought the Bears were going to win. The whole first half, the Bears were playing amazing, and then they just shit the bed.
Aaron Rodgers is 22-5 against the Bears in his career, so just ridiculous stats against them. Justin Fields, two touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 224 yards, a lot of twos in there. Fields was their best rusher. Darnell Mooney, who's considered their best receiver, only 1 reception and 19 yards against the Packers. The Packers are winning without their big players in Jair Alexander. I believe that they got
Devontae Adams put up like 34-something fantasy points this week. I know that.
Yeah, Devontae Adams had a big game with
he had 2 touchdowns.
Yep, 2 touchdowns, 121 yards on 10 receptions. So big game for him. And Rasul Douglas having great last 2 games, 2 pick sixes in 2 games. Really should have had 4. He should have had 1 against Fields in the 4th quarter, then should have had 1 the game before as well. So should have had 4 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks coming off the defense. So great win for the Packers. Moves them up to 10-3, first in the NFC, and the Bears kind of drop out of the playoff race.
Yeah, I don't think the Bears were really ever in it, unless they went for a wild card spot, because they weren't going to beat the Packers in that division.
No, especially since they have the Vikings in there too.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Monday night game with the Rams versus Cardinals. Rams hang on to win 30-23.
I will admit I was wrong. I picked the Cardinals.
I had the Rams plus 5.5.
I picked the Cardinals by 2 possessions, dude. I mean, the Rams have beat one good team all year before this, and it was the Buccaneers, and it's kind of seemed like a fluke. And then they beat the Cardinals. But I do feel like Kyler kind of sold at the end there.
Just poor play calling at the end, really.
I mean their first 2 offensive, after they recovered the onside kick, their first 2 offensive plays both got penalties and resulted in 15 lost yards, and it was 1st and 25.
Yep.
With 20 seconds left.
Matthew Stafford, 287 yards and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. So in his previous games, he had, I believe, 22 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in his first 8 games, and then in his last 4, up to this game, he had 8 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So he was really having a rough stretch. This kind of gets him back in the swing of things. Odell Beckham's had a touchdown in his last 3 games, in 3 straight games. James Conner's 7th consecutive game with a touchdown. I mean, James Conner's been ridiculous this year. Big fantasy guy.
No, I do think last week, whenever the Rams beat the Jaguars by 30, I know the Jags are a bad team, but that did prove, like I think that got them back on track. And they beat the Cardinals. They're not too far behind in that division now. That division's going to come down to the wire. I'm pretty sure if the Cardinals won Monday night, they would have clinched the division.
Yeah.
But they couldn't.
Would have really kind of separated themselves.
Yeah.
And DeAndre Hopkins potentially out for the rest of the season.
They're hoping to get him back by playoff time, but you can't really tell.
Well, if they end up winning out and the Packers drop one, getting a bye would definitely help them out. So the Cardinals are actually 7-0 on the road and then 3-3 at home, which is going to be tough if you're a division winner and you got to play a home playoff game and you're 3-3 at home. Clearly better on the road. Kyler Murray, 383 yards, 2 interceptions though, and then it was bad situational football at the end of the game. Aaron Donald, 3 sacks. Cooper Kupp just continuing his offensive player of the year stretch with 13 receptions, 121 yards. 13 receptions is actually a career high for him.
He's going for the wide receiver triple crown.
Yeah.
Most receptions, most yards, most touchdowns. He's looking good right now.
Probably could get it. Jonathan Taylor really his only competition for Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Taylor deserves to be in MVP talks.
I would agree with that statement. And then A.J. Green kind of turned back the clocks, had 102 yards and 7 receptions. But throughout the game, Kyler definitely missed some big throws that would have impacted the score a little bit. Missed Christian Kirk on one, and then AJ Green on another, and I'm pretty sure on back-to-back plays actually, where they were wide open for touchdowns. And then a fun fact about the Cardinals is they have the most fumbles in the NFL, but the fewest fumbles lost. So
they hustle, I guess.
Very lucky about it. So they're a very lucky team.
Well, you got some going out of bounds, and the rest of them you have to hustle back to. That's all you can really do. That's all you can do to explain that. Some of it's great hustle. Some of it's just a shit ton of luck.
Yeah. So that's going to conclude our weekly recap. Tune in for our next episode where we cover our top 10 picks.